trim it.
It's recording.
All right, and then I'm going to hide the meeting controls. Hide video panel. Hide floating meeting controls. So you should be able to.
It might be. And yeah, if you want to like tilt it a little more, we can tilt it. I just have it tilted because usually
yeah, let me sit it back in the beginning if everyone can see, and if everyone not.
I feel like these chairs over here need to just all come over here because I feel like we can move it over a bit.
Yeah. Just good. You're gonna be able to see better.
Yeah, probably.
And then they can walk through up here.
Yeah.
No, you know, all three students now, they have like these auto settings to make the picture look better.
Yeah.
Like phones do it now too, when you take pictures, they like instant
Yeah.
add this filter that's like contrast, bright, like it does all
Yeah.
things. It drives me,
It's how AI is taking over.
because every time I have to.
Undo it. It's time for us to put on our tinfoil hats.
Because it had the contrast stuff, so it made it really pretty.
Tinfoil hat time.
It's true. TikTok automatically puts on a fake filter.
I know.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like even when you're just recording, like you think that that's your. I don't know. I feel like it's.
It automatically tries to make you look nicer so that you enjoy filming yourself on TikTok.
On TikTok versus
Yeah.
using your actual camera.
I always look better on TikTok than I do Instagram.
Or even versus your phone's camera.
Oh, ooh, I hate that.
Yeah. And I don't know the fine print 100%, but I'm pretty sure once you post it on the platform kind of has ownership of, or it has the same rights to whatever content. So if you're taking a picture on TikTok versus because you look better on there with the filters or whatever versus on your like phone, your like iPhone or whatever, your smartphone, like you have full ownership of it when it's taken on your phone's camera, on your device's camera, versus when you're taking it on TikTok and posting it or something. You know what I mean? Like they technically on it.
Yeah, my
Instagram.
My student was telling me now there's like a filter that you can put on top of your artwork that makes it so AI can't read it.
Now that's a good one.
Yeah, that's smart.
That's a
I've
good
heard of
one.
a lot of like artists, there's like an artist that like developed, this like bots that will corrupt your artwork to AI, so like AI can't like use your art for like its generation.
Perfect. I'm gonna grab the.
I love this mug.
I know, it's really cute.
Do you like this here? Kind of just to kind of like.
I think that's cute.
It also keeps them from getting too close.
Yeah.
I'm my buffer, you know, I just like go farther and farther back.
Yeah, everything looks good on here. I'm gonna plug it in the back, just to make sure that it is good to go.
Okay.
It's plugged.
So basically, what's gonna happen is Nicole's going to come in and read your artist's bio and then pass it on to you. And then when you're done with your presentation, that's when we're gonna end the Zoom. So just kind of say, thank you for blah, blah,
Okay,
blah. So
okay,
we
and
have
then
a-
questions are after.
Yes, and then, so the stream will be, because that way Emily will be able to hear it and we'll be able to cut off the stream. And then I'm gonna have the, Morgan's like iPhone and I will go live on the Instagram. So just give like a slight pause so that I can type in the title like quick enough and then I'll go live and then probably come up and like, you know, they'll see me like, I might even like prompt you like, okay, are we ready to come out here or whatever?
Oh, yeah, we can see questions out here. I can invite people out here. I think it's better to look at actual artists.
All of the above, because usually some people like have questions immediately, you know, and then also if there aren't as many people, like I said, if you were, with the presentation, if you want to know to get your stuff on, so this is kind of the, I'm not gonna put on YouTube. Still automatically be on an Instagram profile, so that on speed, so think of it that way of like, even if there's no questions, you can still be going through and talking about your art.
The list that never ends.
The list that never
I'm
ends.
gonna just put my. Although it sounds like I'll have to accept that on my phone, so I'll put my phone to the side here. But I didn't want it in my pocket.
Oh, wait, you get phone? Okay. I'll like, you have to like release the actual thing and just like, all that stuff, obviously the mic.
No worries.
Let me grab the phone now too. I think she's out there. I'll look back. I just feel like with my life where I get to I get to quiet and like in myself.
You can come to yourself.
Keep chatting with people and wonder if I can go to them. Then I see it. All right, I'm gonna wear my normal shoes unless you need.
The things that pain. Every day. A little bit, I just need a citrus. A little some pain. Take the edge off. Yes, I need some.
Where is the rest of our staff right now? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
For I am. I'm getting my plate snacks.
Yeah, that's me too. How are you?
I'm good, how are you? Enjoying the snacks.
Yes, absolutely. Hello.
Starting our stream at 12, on the balance.
Yes, it automatically is a setting that it goes live, so, and Emily's handling it in the back, so.
Yes. That means you get to see.
Yes, I'm gonna do the live from the Instagram though, because I actually don't have my phone at all today.
Oh,
I gotta go find it, so I don't know where it is.
Oh.
Oops.
I have an annoying setting on my watch that makes my phone beep down. Which is.
I need one of those. I usually use my iPad, or I used to use my iPad, but I don't have that here or anything, so. It's okay though, it's probably just, oh, it's you. Sorry. I thought it would be okay. No, you're fine. I just was wondering why, I thought it was me. And the email went out, so the intro, and I'm just gonna do a second email for everything else, just because I was working on it this morning, and I'm like, I need to just like send it out, so. There's a lot going on later this month too, with the workshops and everything, summer workshops.
Education festival.
Yeah, I heard that somebody signed up to volunteer.
Right.
I think,
Yes.
yeah, in the
Yes.
morning.
Yeah, so at least one person to help out.
Yeah, do you think you, want to try to still like do another call for people to possibly?
Sure. I mean, we're even just saying, yeah, friends, stop by, because that at least passes the time.
Yeah.
Is that,
Well, I don't know how long are you gonna stay for the whole, are you gonna stay for the whole thing?
yeah, we have to.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
They can post on the story or something.
I'm surprised it's only 5. You think with that much work you would want to make?
2 minutes. All right, I will. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's why we stream.
Today, the time it takes to press, right, sometimes we get a good group from the side that comes over on the lunch break, but so far, nearby, there's sort of not quite in this place, yeah. I see the cars that we want to be. Morning, so I'm going to introduce you.
Okay, should I do, should I stand to the side?
You can stand wherever you like, but we're gonna wait until 12:15 because that's when the seats.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So we just stand here for 2 minutes and come.
Okay. Drink a little water,
Mhm.
stretch,
Let's
get comfortable.
talk about the flowers. And I'll stand in front of your screen and I'll.
Okay, that's better.
So, which is a little funny, but.
I'll stand to the side.
What nice weather we're having. It's true, it is. Very nice.
It's the time when the Cleveland people come out of the woodworks.
But only for outdoor events.
Yeah, they're like, I have to be outside if it's gonna be nice.
I don't blame them.
I
We're
think I'm
happy to
even
be
farther north than you guys in Vermillion, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just compounds the farther north you get.
Yeah. No, I lived in, okay. So hello and welcome to our Paper Talks Lunchtime series. I am Nicole Donnelly, Executive Director of the Morgan Conservatory, and I'm very happy to welcome Erin Wohletz here today, who has been an artist in residence at the Morgan for the last 2 weeks. Our Artist in Residence series is supported by the Wingate Foundation, so thank you very much to the Wingate. And to introduce Erin, Erin Wohletz is an assistant professor of printmaking at the University of South Dakota. Originally from Las Vegas, they received their MFA in studio art printmaking from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and their BFA in printmaking and painting from the University of Nevada, Reno. Erin Wohletz has participated in exhibitions across the United States, including unfinished new prints at IPCNY and a solo exhibition at the Northwest Arts Center in 2022. They also run the website, thefutureisqueer.com, an online exhibition and index of over 100 international LGBTQ+ printmakers. Erin has been working on a great project on handmade paper and printmaking while they've been here these last 2 weeks, so please help me welcome Erin.
Hey, hello. Thank you so much to the Morgan for having me here for the last 2 weeks. It's been really fun, and I've been trying to make as much as possible in 2 weeks, which is sometimes hard for me because, as you will see from my work, I'm a slow maker. So doing something in 2 weeks is very, very fast for me. But just to introduce my work, today I'm going to talk mostly about work that I've been making over the last 4 years, starting with my master's thesis, which was in 2021, which is the work that you can see on the TV in front of you. And the way that I described this work was it was really about, I guess, my battle with non-binary queerness. I describe the works as being visual essays, and the exhibition itself sort of took the form of a book. So while these pieces are quite large and you'll be able to see them outside, the outer edges were rounded, and I was sort of thinking about open book spreads. And the work was accompanied by an index, which I'll talk about later. But the major thesis, which I was addressing in this book, was, am I or am I not a liar? I was really interested in the perception in the media of non-binary persons being liars or fakers or fibbers, and what that would mean. And the sort of the reasoning behind the index is the index explains all the iconography in really in-depth detail and a lot of different factors, and I'll go into that more later. But all of the works appeared in what I called companion pairs. They're not necessarily diptychs, I think they're standalone pieces, but it was 2 works which seek to approach the debate of whether or not I'm a liar from a couple of different angles, including evidence, memory, history, family, risk. This pairing was the first series, and it was really about my experience coming out for the first time, which happened back like a decade ago now, which was not very successful. And I was, for this piece, interested in making a work which explained that emotion of like sort of all of the self-analysis that goes into desiring to come out, but then also the creation of which being an expression of that as well. So the way this work was created is it's a large grid of hand-drawn eyes, which I worked on over the course of a few months. And then the images, in terms of the face, was created through trace monotype. So in order to do that, the whole drawing had to be placed flat on a wet slab of ink and then drawn blind onto the back. So sort of thinking about leaps of faith and doing processes where you don't know the outcomes. And then Wicked Witch of the East. So Pinocchio is a major icon in the work, thinking about the idea of like being a real boy, but also being a liar. And this piece was really about sort of like the fallout from coming out and sort of the being perceived as a villain in your own story and like how that feels. The next pair was about being a liar. So I made 12 works for this exhibition, and I was really interested in having one of the chapters approach the argument of whether or not I am a liar from the opposite perspective. So this is my am I a liar pairing. And I was sort of thinking about the way that the outside world perceives me. What is my, like, do I have queer aura? The story I always tell with this work was when I was in high school. I remember being a senior and like talking with my friends. And I was like, why has no boy ever asked me out to any school dance? And the girl across from me looked me dead in the face and said, because everyone knows that you're gay. And I was like, what? Because I had never even considered that before. And it was a really strange and revelatory moment, this idea that others can perceive something of you based off of some energy that you're giving out that you might not even know yourself. And then this piece, Liar, Liar, where I was thinking about like whether or not my expression of non-binariness could be like an extension of certain waves of feminism, where it's like this idea of like breaking down traditional feminist roles. Am I only against traditional feminist roles, or am I more interested in masculinity? So sort of questioning these things. And sorry, I'm going through these at lightning speed because I want to show you so much work. The third chapter was about history. So I was really interested in historical representations of non-binary persons, specifically for this series, thinking about Audubon, which I was introduced to as a young child. We had a lot of Audubon prints in my house when I was a kid, but also Zeus taking the form of different birds to come down to earth and fornicate with different people. So the eagle has been a sort of traditional homosexual icon throughout art history. As Zeus coming down in the story in the guise of an eagle to make off with a beautiful man, Ganymede, and take him off to Olympus to have his way with him. So many of your favorite art historical, big sort of Ninja Turtle named artists have made paintings about this. And it was a way to talk about homosexuality to the in crowd whilst excluding people that would not approve of that. And then this piece, my friend Lita, I was really thinking about the trope of Lita and the Swan, where Zeus in this story comes down in the guise of a swan to have sex with a woman. And I was really interested in the swan and the eagle as having gender connotations, because I think we do think of the eagle as being more masculine and the swan as being a feminine bird. And so I was like, well, then does it mean that Zeus is like a non-binary figure where he's like embracing these like different gendered animals? And then would that make Lita and the Swan a lesbian trope? That's what I was thinking about. The next chapter, kind of a tough one. So this chapter, I was really trying to talk to my family, specifically to my parents, because in some forms, this exhibition, I was trying to explain things that I think is difficult for a certain generation to understand. And I think that was the sort of comeuppance of the work, was trying to explain what non-binary queerness is. So this series, I really took a piece, the one on the left with the robots for my dad, and the one on the right with the flowers for my mom, sort of trying to take something that I felt I shared with each of my parents and like queering that space. So in the sense of the robots, sort of thinking about these like 80s era sci-fi characters who are animatronic robots, but they all have gender without genitalia. So they are like these gendered non-sexual creatures. And I was really interested in that. And then also like flowers, thinking about like queer flower language. And, you know, doing some sapphic poetry and talking about growing and things like that. The next chapter was on evidence. I was really interested in the perception that when you come out, you have to like provide some sort of evidence to the world. Like you can't be accepted clearly on your word. You have to make some sort of like grand, you have to like show, you know, like some kind of like scene from a movie with all the red string. I have to like show you this whole plan that I have that proves that I have like this traditional narrative from when I was a kid, I've always known. So this piece, Rube Goldberg, was about that, sort of thinking about how do I come up with this like convoluted system of memories that I can explain to a person to prove that what I'm saying is true. And same thing with evidence. When I first started making this piece, I was working at a natural history museum down in collections, and I was sort of like rehousing and preserving all of these objects, and thinking a lot about like what would be like my queer evidence that I would preserve and how would I preserve it. And then the final chapter. So when I started my thesis, it was right after the lockdown and COVID, and I kind of came up with this plan for this show. I think in my mind, I was like, and then no one will see it. And I can just have this, and maybe not have to explain myself to like my family or other people. And then a year later, things relaxed enough in Knoxville that I got a message that like my whole family was coming to the show. And I kind of realized that I had worked myself into a bit of an uncomfortable corner. And then maybe people were going to read things that I'm not sure if I was comfortable with them reading. And I started to get really freaked out. So this was my chapter on shame. And I was really thinking about the sort of like build up to them experiencing that and what that felt like. So roller coasters and thinking a lot about these sort of like cartoon icons, like being like caught in the spotlight and not knowing where to go. Yeah, walking my family down to the exhibition was like not the most fun experience in the world for me. I think it's like important and it needs to happen, but I had a lot of emotions about it. And then yeah, it was accompanied by the index, which was a really important work for me. And basically the way that it works is each row that you can see there described all of the icons within all of the work in a couple of different ways. And it was alphabetical, so you could find anything that you wanted to find. The top layer described all of the objects by their base appearance. So sort of like cartoon icons of everything. So thinking about the way the first way we understand something is by its basic appearance. The second row was like a map of all of the icons and every icon they appeared next to. So understanding things by what they're around, the connections that they have. The third row was our like societal definition. So it's just a Webster's dictionary version, really like to the point basic. The fourth row, which you can kind of see a little bit more clearly here, was a true telling, but then with all references to queerness redacted from the telling. So sort of like maybe what I would traditionally have told my family about the work. And I used all these sticky notes. It was like images from queer art history, but with like the queerness redacted out of them as well. Then the fifth line was a true and honest telling with nothing redacted. And then the last line was left blank, sort of thinking about the future. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience in the show, watching people sort of like read the words, because I think I'm very comfortable with people looking at the work, but it was hard for like people reading my diary or something. They're like, but I really appreciated that. And I liked the way in which the index rewarded people who actually wanted to learn more about the work. So it was like I didn't have to expose myself to everyone. It was only the people that like really cared and wanted to investigate deeper into the work could really read about everything. And then post grad school. So I had kind of a listless year after grad school. It took me a little over a year to find employment. I was just receiving a lot of rejection, and I was working in a restaurant, waiting tables. And I think like the only thing that really got me through it was, thankfully, I met this artist, Ashton Ludden, in Knoxville, who let me share a printmaking space with her and some studio space so that I could actually make work. Because when I moved my studio into my house, there was nowhere for everything to go. I didn't even have a living room anymore because there was no space. And then I always thank Erin Coleman, who awarded me this exhibition in Northwest Art Center, which was exactly a year after my thesis. And it was a really large space. So I had this opportunity to spend that year kind of expanding upon my thesis and really like growing the body of work. which sort of pushed me through that era of like waiting tables and being rejected. I was like, well, I can at least expand this exhibition. So I worked on one final chapter, or mostly just one final piece, where I was really thinking about reflections on the show. And I felt that in some ways the show had failed. Maybe I was just sort of in this failure era, but also my family's reaction to it was really strange. I felt like they didn't, like everything was like just swept right under the rug again. It wasn't like really like thought about or like considered or talked about in a way that I maybe would have liked it to have been talked about. So this was a piece of sort of about that. And then I decided, I guess the trajectory of my work the last couple of years has been trying to get to be more direct and sort of limit myself somewhat to try to be more honest with my artwork. I think honesty in my artwork is very important. So these works were all sort of small compositions. There's a couple of them outside, trying to break down individual words from the index into a single piece. So instead of making a work that had like, 10 different icons all coming together, just being like, this is going to be a piece that's just about one icon. And I made like a pretty large series of those during my extra year. And they're quite small. They're like 8 by 8 inches square. And then I got my job, which I'm currently at University of South Dakota. I've been there for 2 years now. And my first 2 years of teaching have been incredibly chaotic, a little bit stressful. And it's been a bit hard to make work, or at least to think really deeply about my work. So I spent most of the first 2 years just doing a lot of print exchanges. I work really well under a deadline, so it was a nice way to force myself to do work, was to be like, oh, I'm going to be a visiting artist here, or I'm going to participate in this print exchange, and I'm going to have to make these different works for that. So I made about like 6 works during that time that all felt like they were talking about the same themes, but a little bit scattered. And I think I've been working towards this new series for a while, but it's just starting. Some more pieces from the era. I guess it was more like 8 pieces. It's funny, you can feel like you're not getting that much done, and then you look at it and go, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I feel like I'm always like setting obstructions for myself or problems to work through, but these were all for like visiting artist things and whatnot. But this piece, Guts, I just finished about a month ago. And I think it's the first work in like a new series of work. And I I'm excited, it's early days. So I'm not going to make too many like definitive statements about what the work's about, but I think I'm interested in continuing to talk about gender and my experience with gender, but removing it a little bit from the personal and thinking a little bit more about the systems of gender and how they come to play. I'm also really interested in the fact that as humans, we're surrounded by all of these very complex systems, whether physical or cultural, and we just put a lot of faith in them. I feel like I'm surrounded by I'm really interested in drawing these like mechanized parts recently because I have no idea what they do or mean. And this image was taken on an aircraft carrier that I took a tour of. And I was like, I don't know how this works. I don't know what it's for, but I guess I have like some faith in this system. So I guess that's kind of what the new work is about, like faith in systems and gender and enculturation. So that's a new piece. And while I've been here at the Morgan, I'm sort of doing a lot of prep work for this like larger body of work that I'm going to work on. I have a solo show in the fall of 2025. So that's sort of my like due date is pretty far out. On these 18 by 18 inch square works, which are going to be on similar themes. So while I've been here at the Morgan, I've been making all this beautiful, really brightly colored 18 by 18 inch paper, made some from denim and then some green, yellow, and pink paper. And then I've been working on this reduction lino, which is still very much in progress here in the middle on denim paper. I'm excited at how like masculine and industrial the denim feels. So I almost want to try to push myself to make another batch of denim before I leave. I leave on Monday, so I'm like, how much can I really get done before Monday? I don't know. I still have to pull all the yellow paper too, so there's plenty to do. But yeah, I think it's still like the new work is still percolating, and it's been nice to have some time away from Vermilion and away from teaching, to think about the new work and to try to get inspired here for the summer to make a lot of new things. But yeah, that's sort of the end, other than I will briefly plug my website, thefuturesquare.com, which if I can minimize, I will open up here. I don't know if it's gonna let me pull it up full screen. But if you're interested in learning about queer printmakers or joining the index, I run this wonderful website called thefuturesquare.com, which is a directory of international queer printmakers. And I can show you what they kind of look like. My friend Teddy. So it has one or a couple of images of work from the artist, as well as information about their website, Instagram, bios, artist statements. And you can read about a lot of different work. And I guess this sort of came apart when I was in grad school, because I didn't look into these things before I applied to grad school. And then when I went to make my thesis committee, I realized even though I was in a giant art school, there wasn't a single queer artist that I could add to my committee. And I went, crap, I probably should have thought about that when I was applying to grad school. So this is a resource that I would have really loved to have. I want to get it organized by like location as well. So like if you're moving to a new place, you can see like what the community is like there, would be really nice. Because I would have loved to have had that when I was a student. So I need to update this website desperately. And there is plans also for maybe spring of this year, there's going to be a physical version of this exhibition in Vermilion. I have a space locked up. If anyone wants to apply for that, it'll probably come up on my Instagram and around sometime soon, because I have quite a big space. We should be able to show like 50 to 60 works. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's it. That was the end of my talk. Thank you guys so much for coming.